My name is Clara, and I am 42 years old. I've been married to Daniel for 20 years. Together we have 2 children, Ethan, who is 16, and Sophie, who is 13. Ethan has Daniel's sharp mind and a humor that can light up the darkest days. Sophie is gentle, always humming a tune or strumming her guitar, filling our home with music. From the outside, we probably look like the perfect family. A nice house in the suburbs, steady jobs, and 2 bright, happy children. People see what they want to see, but perfection is a mask, and masks are fragile. When Daniel and I first got married, we were in love, the kind of love that felt unshakable. He made me laugh so easily back then. His eyes would light up every time he looked at me, as if I were the most precious thing in his world. We built a life together with dreams in our hearts. When Ethan was born, we held hands, marveling at the tiny person we had created. Sophie came 2 years later, and our family felt complete. In those early years, I thought nothing could break us. Daniel worked hard in finance, long hours that were supposed to build our future. I stayed home with the kids, doing freelance writing whenever I could. I didn't mind the sacrifices because I believed in us. But somewhere along the way, things began to change. Daniel's hours at work got longer. At first, it seemed normal. He was climbing the career ladder, providing for our family. But then the late nights became constant. Weekend trips popped up more often, and when I asked where he was going, his answers were vague. One Saturday morning, as he grabbed his keys to leave, I asked, "Do you really have to go today?" He barely looked at me. "It's work, Clara. You know that." I watched him walk out the door, the knot in my stomach tightening. The distance between us grew, slowly but steadily, like a crack in the foundation of a house. He stopped asking about my day. Conversations became surface level, like we were just going through the motions. I noticed how he always had his phone with him, how he'd smile at a text and then quickly put the phone away when I walked into the room. One evening, while folding laundry, I found a receipt in his pocket. It was from a fancy restaurant, one we hadn't been to in years. Dinner for 2. My hands shook as I held it, the implications crashing over me. "Is it for work?" I whispered to myself, trying to find an explanation that didn't hurt. But deep down, I knew. Months later, my suspicions were confirmed. I found a note in his suitcase while unpacking after one of his trips. It was short but devastating. "I miss you. Can't wait to see you again." When Daniel came home, I confronted him. "Who is she?" I asked, holding up the note. My voice was steady, but inside I was crumbling. His face went pale. He stared at the note, then at me, as if he couldn't decide what to say. Finally, he sighed and sat down on the edge of the bed. "Her name is Laura," he admitted. "It's not serious." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "Not serious," I repeated. "You betrayed me. You betrayed us." He begged me not to leave. He promised it was over, that it was a mistake. I didn't believe him, but I stayed. Not for him, for Ethan and Sophie. I told myself they needed a stable home, even if it was built on a lie. Years passed. Daniel tried to make amends in small ways, helping more around the house, spending more time with the kids. But he never truly apologized, and I never truly forgave him. The love we once had felt like a distant memory. Then 2 years ago, I ran into someone from my past, Michael. We had been friends in college, but life took us in different directions. We met again by chance at a coffee shop. He was in town for a conference, and seeing him felt like finding an old photograph of a happier time. "Clara," he said, smiling warmly, "it's been so long." We decided to catch up over coffee. At first, it was just a simple conversation, talking about our lives, our families, our jobs. But Michael had a way of listening, of making me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. Coffee turned into phone calls, then into walks in the park. One evening, he kissed me. For a moment, I let myself feel it. The warmth, the care, the connection. It was something I hadn't felt in so long, but the guilt followed me home. When Daniel found out, his reaction shocked me. "Are you cheating on me?" he demanded, his voice filled with anger and disbelief. I didn't deny it. "I needed something you stopped giving me years ago," I said, my voice shaking but firm. He looked at me, his anger softening into something that resembled pain. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "I want love," I said. "I want to feel cared for. I want to feel like I matter." For the first time in years, we had an honest conversation. He admitted that his affair hadn't truly ended when he said it had. I admitted my feelings for Michael. It was raw and it was painful, but it felt like a release. We started therapy, not because I was sure we could fix things, but because I needed clarity. We began to rebuild, slowly and cautiously. Daniel made an effort to be present. We started going for walks, talking about the little things, rediscovering pieces of each other. As for Michael, I ended things. I met him one last time to say goodbye. "You deserve happiness, Clara," he said. "I hope you find it." "I hope so too," I replied. Now, 2 years later, Daniel and I are still together. We're not the same as we once were, but we're trying. Trust doesn't return easily, but I've learned that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. Some days, I still feel the weight of the past, but I also feel hope. For me or us. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. I'm stronger now, and no matter what happens, I'll keep fighting for the love and peace I deserve. If you enjoy the story, please like, subscribe, and share.